it's really cool to have you on here. So.
Hey, hell yeah, man! I'm glad to be here too. There's one thing I like doing. It's just kind of like hanging out and talking about shit. That's.
Yeah.
Oh wait, by the way, I wanted to ask that. I swear way too much.
Oh, yeah, swear.
Fucking go for it.
So
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure. It's hard to like dial it back completely. Like I sometimes try for certain things, but my lord, is it hard.
No, you're good. There's no rerestriction there. We are marked as explicit.
I use it to like emphasize my words, so like I get it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I kind of grew up with it being like a sentence filler, and now
exactly.
I just can't.
Can't
it's hard to get out
of it. Perfect. All right. Well, everybody, welcome back to I'm All Ears. This is a Dead by Daylight podcast, the #1 rated Dead by Daylight podcast, where Dro and myself, typically the two of us, cup our ears to the fog and we listen to what you, the community, are saying regarding updates, balancing, character lore, popular quests, much more. Gotta get it out of the way first. Thank you guys for pushing us past the YouTube threshold. We can now get a custom URL. The process for doing so, not easy.
It doesn't let me do it yet.
But thank you guys for that. Of course, be sure you're rating us on Spotify if you're just finding us. And thank you guys for coming into the Twitch chats for both myself and Dro and poking at us about the podcast. That's cool because we were talking about this before we dove in, but it's a labor of love. We sit down and we really like churning these out. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Today we have a hotbed of topics for you, but first we have a very special guest. We are sitting down today with OhTofu. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I could try. So, hi, I'm OhTofu. I've been streaming DBD for basically ever. I played this game in like the beta in June of 2016, and I've been pretty much like addicted to it ever since. I built like a whole streaming career off this game. It basically has made me. It basically was the thing that like enabled my dream job. So this game kind of has like a big place in my heart, and I've been playing it ever since. And also, I love to just talk about things. I've been known to never shut up about certain topics because I'll just give my takes on everything for like hours. So I think hopefully I'll fit right into this podcast pretty well.
Beautiful.
For sure. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I think that's a very solid introduction. And where could the people find you? I shot the links out at the beginning.
Oh yeah, sure. If you want to come watch me, yeah, twitch.tv/OhTofu is probably the only one I'll shout out. That one's fun. I'm there like every night, chilling and hanging out. So
makes good YouTube content too, but that's fine. We'll talk about that. Dro, where can the people find you?
I just my Twitch as well. Then we're gonna stick with that trend. Twitch.tv/HiDro. Almost every day, Sunday to Thursday.
That's a good solid. Take the Friday off. And you guys can find me. I'm gonna go with YouTube. YouTube.com/DyllonKG.
Oh, wow.
I don't have as much time to stream and do things with the day job, so we're focusing on more like YouTube and stuff like that. And I do love streaming though. So, well, welcome in everybody. Thank you for being here today, guys. Obviously, we're gonna be talking about kind of one of the more divisive kind of topics we've had over the past few months in terms of DBD content, and one of the changes I think I hear the most of, why did they do this? Who asked for this? But we're talking about obviously the 6.3.0 PTB that reworks the Mori system. I don't want to lead the question too much. We're going to dive in as Tofu, as you're the guest. Where are your thoughts now? Just general, what's your gut feeling about it? What would changes, no changes? What do you think?
Are we touching on like everything about it, like the fact that servers can pick themselves up as well, or are we kind of like gonna leave that for a little bit?
You can verbal vomit however you want. We'll restructure as we go.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I feel like they both kind of tie into each other, right? It feels like they're kind of trying to establish this whole new like win mechanic almost of the game where it's like kind of different than before. And I don't know. I guess I'm not opposed to it. Like, I feel like most arguments I hear against it are like, I don't know. I think my main issue I have with it, and again, it's kind of like you said, like no one really asked for it. That's kind of the big thing, right? It feels like something that kind of just like got sprung on us, and we're just like, oh, this is how things work now. Okay, sure. But I don't hate it. I really don't. I think it's fine. Like, I think it seems to work okay. I guess my My only really issue I had with it from playing with it on the PTB is I just kind of thought it looked a little bit corny, if I'm going to be honest with you. I thought when you down the last survivor, it gives you this weird like cutscene that like everything turns red and it takes like 5 seconds and then it just kind of cuts to like the regular Mori that you're used to seeing and you're like,
Oh.
Okay,
A bit lackluster,
sure.
I agree.
Yeah, right. It's just like, okay, sure. That seemed unnecessary, but why not? You know.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm not really like as far as the whole Mori system goes and the whole like the way the game end goes. I'm really not too upset about it. I mean, I guess the only thing to be upset about is you maybe can't do like slug races anymore. But I mean, that's fine. I'm
I
not
mean,
really too
yeah.
upset about it.
You just have to have the final survivor kind of officiate the race. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, he's
you
the
know,
one that
you
starts
just you
it.
have him throw the flag, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you kill him at the end.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, just to recap, anyone coming in who's missed it, blows my mind, but not everybody's as tuned in as us. I got to remember that. But in 6.3.0, the Dead by Daylight Behavior introduced a new mechanic that effectively it basically is a change to the Mori system, and there is a last survivor standing mechanic. If there are 3 survivors and they are not able to play, whether they are slugged, hooked, or just straight up dead, the last survivor is last man standing. If the last man standing goes down, anyone still in the trial instantly dies, and that last survivor and the killer get teleported to a location for the Mori animation to automatically start. So it's like it's a fatality, if you will.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the idea. Now to offset that, behavior made it so that survivors can pick themselves up, so that killers didn't, just slug every survivor right out the gate and try to play kind of scummy, if you will, if you want to call it that, to get easy Moris. That's where the contention comes in. Both of those mechanics, when implemented, have holes. So I guess we can dive more into the specifics of those. Now, you mentioned, Tofu, that nobody really asked for it, which I would typically agree. Do you think that there's merit in, or I guess the question for me is, do you believe that this was kind of a necessity for them to justify continuing to work on like new Mori mechanics for every single killer, knowing that like Moris, in my eyes, don't get nearly as much play as they used to, or maybe even should?
Yeah, that could be it. Because you're not wrong. Ever since they had to nerf Mori stuff the years, right? Like I guess if people don't remember, or maybe if you haven't played way back in the day, I mean, back when the game first came out, you could Mori people on first down. Like you could down someone
Yeah.
once and then just Mori. It was ridiculous. They would just instantly die. So they had to nerf them like many times. They made it like, okay, well, now you have to hook them once and Mori them. And then they're like, okay, well, even this is too strong. So now I got to hook them twice and get them on death hook, and then you could Mori. So I feel like they had to nerf Moris so much over the years because of how strong they were, to the point where now, yeah, they do. They're kind of like, I mean, like who the hell even runs Moris anymore? Like in what situation do you run it? You basically only run it if you're just like in the mood to see a fancy animation and that's it. Like they're not really that big of a deal anymore. So yeah, you might be right. It might be a way to like show them some more love in a way, which I think could be interesting. I mean, I don't want to get too off topic with this, but I still think behavior is leaving money on the table when it comes to customizable Moris. I'm
Oh,
just saying.
100%.
I'm just
100%.
saying, yeah. I
We've
don't
seen
think
that
that.
for so long. Like if they put that in the store and I could buy different Moris, I would throw money on my screen.
Same.
Like I would love it.
Same. I don't ever spend money on video games like ever. I'm
Mhm.
so like cheap. But if there was like customizable more, I'd be all over that, dude. I'd be busting out the wallet immediately. That'd be so
Dude.
sick.
Yeah.
Like the Moris in the mobile DBD are incredible. And I would
Yeah.
love to see that in like the DBD game because it would be like in better graphics and so much
Yeah.
cooler. So I would really like that as well.
Yeah, like I wish that was more of the route they took if they were like trying to give Maury some like care and love, but
Mhm.
obviously I don't know what's going on the team. That maybe they're short on animators or whatever. Like I'm not exactly sure what's going on with them, so it's hard for me to judge. But yeah, it could be a way to give Maury some love. I'm not really sure. I also don't know if maybe it's like, I wonder if maybe their bigger priority was actually the anti-slugging. Like I'm not. I wonder if that was maybe a priority, and then maybe the Mori was just a way to tie into that. I'm not really
Mhm.
sure. Like I'm not sure which one of those two was like more important to them. Like I'm not sure which one led to the other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if
Right.
it was kind of maybe both equal. I'm really not 100%. But the Mori thing doesn't, like maybe, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know, I mean, in my eyes, and I don't know if how you guys feel, but I know, like, as a survivor, the times I do play it in live servers, if somebody brings a Mori, I'm always like, are you gonna tunnel? Are you just gonna like tunnel a guy out and like do that thing? It's not like a concern of like you're gonna ruin my night. It's just like are we? Is that the next match? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
And then like as a
I
killer,
don't really see it that way, to be honest with you.
really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. I also, whenever I play Survivor, I go into it with like I don't really care what's happening attitude.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna do like a flashbang save or a sabo save, so I'm gonna die regardless.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair.
I get like mad if they bring a Mori and I don't get Mori'd. In fact, so
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the other part is like as a killer, when I bring a Mori, I'm always like, do people expect me to play sort of quote unquote ruthlessly or to try to, you know, and does that mean that they're just gonna like hyper sit to gens and be uber efficient, which I feel, at least in my experience, happens a lot where, you know, people are pre-running more or sneaking more just to avoid like. So I feel like burning a Mori offering now has this weird psychological state of the game change that maybe if just standardizing it would be healthier. But so that's kind of why I posed that question, because my perspective is like I don't think Moris see play now because people don't like them. Like you see one and you're like, oh, this game. But I don't know if you guys are listening. Let us know. Maybe I'm just in the minority. That could be totally possible.
I mean, I would have agreed with that more if it was the older Mori system, even the one before the update, where like after the first hook you can Mori somebody. I feel like back then people would be more upset whenever you saw like Eerie Mori, right? Oh, yeah. Coming into the game. I feel like nowadays it doesn't feel that way, because even when people do bring a Mori, like it's kind of easy to kind of avoid getting Mori yourself. So,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it feels like I mean you only get Mori'd when you're on Death Hook now, so it feels like when you would get Mori'd, you were basically just gonna die anyway, right?
Exactly.
Like the only thing that would save you is like a flashlight save or a sabo play or something, right? Like you maybe avoid that, but that's essentially it.
Yeah, and that's super fair. I think having played since like before the first change, right, where it was first hook, I think it's a holdover mentality from the good old days.
Yeah, you probably remember the old like the old Mori the dying light instantly and had to deal with the 25%. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah. So so going into it, Dro, how do you feel right now? You haven't played really the PTB much, but how do you feel about the current state of everything, given Twitter and YouTube and
I played a little bit like on my downtime. Like I like what's happening. I just like change, especially when it comes to Dead by Daylight, because I find it exciting. You know, something else to like have to deal with and stuff. I guess it just didn't happen the way I thought it was when they announced like this Mori system, like the whole like the last man standing thing. I thought it was gonna be like if it's the last survivor in the trial. I wasn't expecting if like 3 other people are slugged and you down the other person just ends the game. Don't know how I feel about that too much. I don't think it's like that big of an issue unless you're playing like Nurse. Hashtag elite Nurse. But aside from that, I don't think it's that bad. And I do think that the base kit Unbreakable does kind of counter that happening for most killers. You know, there's some killers, depending on the build and what they're doing, it could be an issue. But I don't think it's that bad. Like Tofu said, it does look a bit like cheesy, the cutscene and the sound that happens when it's the last man standing and stuff like that. But I think overall, like
I like the sound. How dare you?
You like it? I don't know if I like it, because it happens every time it's the last person up.
It does happen. It does. The frequency is maybe because people keep popping up like whack-a-mole. It's a little bit goofy.
Yeah. You have to remember that this is not coming out for like who knows how long still.
Yeah, there's no.
I don't think it's something to be like upset about that much, but give like feedback, you know, because I'm sure behavior is listening and watching to what people are saying.
That's before we dive in soon to like real holes and how it functions. I do want to make a quick PSA of like this is not coming out in 2 weeks. Which begs the question, what is coming out in 2 weeks? But because there's no real other content besides Rift, like choosing multiple challenges. But so I would give very candid feedback, but people, I think to me, people saying like, oh, who asked for this? Behavior doesn't listen to us. That sort of rhetoric stuff, whether you land on one side or the other, I think behavior was very, in my opinion, very much was like, hey, we have a thing. Here you guys go. We don't know when this is going to be done. So can you test it for us and see how broken it gets, please? Like, that's how I'm viewing this entire process, no matter how silly it gets. I don't. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, and I love that. I feel like that's a big thing that I've had an issue with for a long time. Is it feels like the PTB isn't even really a PTB. Like lately, it feels like we get the PTB content, and it's like, okay, well, this is coming to live in like literally like 2 or 3 weeks. So if there's like a glaring hole, it's just not gonna get fixed. Like it's coming out so soon that like they can't really make drastic changes. Like they can maybe make like slight like number tweaks, and that's it. So there's been a lot of times in the past where we've had something on PTB and I'm like, this sucks. This is busted. This is not good. And it's like, but it's too late. Like it's literally like 2 weeks before this comes out. So we just have to, we're gonna have to just deal with it, right? And that's been a big issue that I've had, and I think other people in the community have had. So yeah, I mean, I actually love this. I love that they're like, hey, here's a mechanic that we're not releasing for a while, and like we're gonna give it to you now, and then you guys are gonna give us feedback, and then we'll have like months to work on this. Like it could change entirely for all you know, right? And I love that. I think it's awesome. It is a little like it does suck a bit that there's nothing really happening outside of that. Like you're not wrong. Like when the actual patch drops in 2 weeks, it's like what are we getting? Like we're getting slightly different flashlights, and it said like I think in the patch notes it said like we took Huntress and we optimized her, and it didn't even say how.
Which I have no idea what that means. Like
yeah, right. Yeah, the whole time on the PTB, I was like, wow, look at this Huntress. Look at how optimized these hatchets are.
Right.
So optimized. I don't even know what it means, but I'm just like, sure.
Sure. Thank you.
So like the actual patch is going to be kind of boring, I guess, which is I guess unfortunate. But again, I'm not really mad about it because I'm happy that like they are actually using the PTB to actually test. Right.
Yeah.
Like if going forward, if like every PTB has at least something that isn't going to come out for a while that we can give feedback on, I would love that. If that's a trend that continues, I would love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially big changes. Do you feel mostly the same way, Dro? Or
oh yeah, 100% the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just mostly disappointed we didn't hear anything about the twins changes. That's what like I was really hoping for this like chapter.
That's
mid chapter.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think a lot of people sort of expected, because that was kind of talked about as being a Q4 tentative sort of thing. And you know, with them doing a dev update on Friday of last week, I think a lot of people were like, okay, well then Monday is going to be the actual stuff. And then there was nothing.
Which like I'm kind of okay with though. Sometimes I feel like Behavior's been pumping out content like very quickly as of late. So I don't mind just having a patch of just like, you know, maybe some subtle things there and like something bigger is being worked on more. Because like Tofu said, I really like the fact that we're testing all this all on the PTB now, as opposed to like in 2 weeks before it releases. So I 100% agree.
Yeah. This doesn't, I mean, this has a slew of bug fixes, and I don't know why they never put this in the patch notes, but Azarov just has the new tiles that they added to Macmillan like a month or 2 months ago, like the double window vault thing. That's
it has
strange. Somebody made a video, and I looked at their video, and they were like, "Hey, Azarov has these PTB tiles now." So,
that's cool, dude.
It is cool. I'm super cool with that because as a killer, Longwall jungle gyms. The less of those. Please. Inadvertent Ghostface Sadako buffs. So, you know, I'm trying to see it as kind of like a health. Everybody wants like a health patch or something like that. And
yeah, everyone's been asking.
You know, it's not a Billy nerf or a Twins rework, but I'm sorry, Billy buff.
Is it Billy nerf? Excuse you.
Sorry, he's too strong.
The community has been through a lot with that already. Okay,
give him double overheat, mega overheat.
We're taking away his chainsaw.
Yeah, they just lock up his chainsaw.
It's just a cosmetic now.
So yeah, given the landscape of everything, I know Tofu, you sat down last night and played only Survivor, primarily I assume because of queue times on PTB being just rough, but where do you fall kind of on everything, but primarily the Survivor concerns, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually went into the PTB last night not really sure what I was gonna do, because I felt like I played a game of Killer, and I also played a couple games of solo queue Survivor, and everybody was just playing the PTB like normal. It was weird.
Really?
Like I was like no one was really like slugging. Like I was hoping to like test Unbreakable. Like I tried slugging a little bit. Like I tried to play Twins, and God, it was a nightmare. It was rough. I just wanted to see how bad it was, and it was bad. But also, just before I step away from that, I hope that they plan on making the Twins rework the same time as this update.
With this one, 100% agreed.
And if they do, I wish they would have announced that, because I feel like a lot of people are angry about that, and I want to be like, dude, they're most likely going to release them together. Like you would think, because it's kind of like you said, they said that twins was going to happen in like Q4 or whatever, and this is like obviously coming still too. So you would think that they would come together, because a lot of people are angry, but I feel like they probably don't have to be. I can't guarantee it, right? I'm not a dev, so I don't know. I just wish the devs would have confirmed it. That's just a separate thing, but
do you think
I do
they'll
find that weird.
Squeeze out a mid-chap, like the last mid-chapter of the year, like, oh, here's twins, like
yeah, maybe, yeah, they're like, they're yeah, I don't know. I wish they would have been like, don't worry if you're a twins player, by the way, we know this affects you more than everyone else, but like we'll do something for you whenever this hits live. Like I wish they would have just like put that in the patch notes somewhere, that way people could have like rested easy about it.
For sure.
If it's a thing. I guess maybe it's not a thing. I mean, like maybe I'm giving them too much credit, maybe it won't be, I don't know, but I would assume so.
I don't like to be cynical. It would not be the first time that too much credit has been given, and
yeah,
so it's
You know what? I'm going to be the optimistic one here. It's going to happen. I know it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good energy.
The four twins mains out there like needs this, you know. So
seriously, we can't lose them, man. They're going to go extinct.
They're precious.
The endangered species.
Are there more like Ghostface mains than there are like twins mains?
I would assume
there's gotta be, right?
No,
like,
people just place to like Ghostface because they simp over him. It's like
that's fair. You know, that's not even a fair comparison.
True.
Yep, that's true.
True. But okay, to get back on topic though, like when I saw how people were playing on the PTB, I was like, okay, this is not really accomplishing anything. And I don't ever do this. This is like something I don't ever do on stream. I'm usually like a completely solo survivor or a killer. But I got like a group of friends together. Like I got a bunch of my friends together to actually like get in like a start with friends. And I was just like, let's just see how much we can break it, right? And we just like got like Unbreakable and Sabo, and we burnt like oak. Like we were being shitheads. There's really no other way to say it. Like we were burning oak offerings, and we were bringing like Sabo, and we basically find like a corner of the map where there was only one hook that the killer could reach if we went down, and we would just like, if we ever got chased, we would run to the corner and then have one person stab with that hook, and then we would just be invincible in that corner, right? Because you can pick yourself up forever. And if you bring Unbreakable, you can pick yourself up in 22 seconds forever, like literally forever. And it was pretty busted, is what I'll say. It was pretty busted. Like I feel like there's definitely some things that might like. It's hard to say because I don't want to make any hard opinions about like what should be changed.
Yeah,
because I don't know if anything drastic needs to be done, but I will say that it definitely felt abusable. Like we still died a lot of the time, but we died through like bleeding out and stuff because the killer would basically just down us over and over again in the corner and like stare at us while we died, which is not very fun gameplay from the killer, right? Like I don't think anyone wants to do that. So it was interesting. Like I really tried to I tried my best to like limit test it, and it definitely seemed like it was another one of those like abusable things where, like, you remember boil over on the PTB whenever that first got changed, and you ran into that a lot, and you'd be like, oh, not this again, oh, you know. And I feel like that's how that could end up being when it comes to live if they don't like accommodate for it, you know.
Right. Yeah, if it's, you know, it is an extreme, but you know, if you don't take those extremes into consideration and try to round out how high those get, you know, and boil over was that, you know, how many times did I get boil over squads? Not that many, but when I did, like,
you didn't get that many? I feel for the first week I got it like every game almost.
I mean, it
RPD with boil over.
It was a good amount, but it wasn't like every game. You know what I mean? Like, to be realistic. And then when I did, I just would 4-man slug them in perpetuity. So like nobody was having fun, you know? So and I think that's kind of what it boils down to is like, I think there are a lot of people making strong arguments for like, well, we're seeing a lot of people do it now, but they're not getting gens done, which to your credit, Tofu, you guys always had, like, I'm watching this Midwich match and I'm showing that footage, but it, you know, you and against this Myers, and you guys actually were getting gens done too. You know, one person's cranking, it's not hard. And that, you know, is it going to happen in solo queue a lot? No. But like the disparity between solo queue and Swift gets a little bit bigger, and you know, so Dro, what do you think about sort of that?
I think the base Unbreakable kit is like okay. I think the 45 seconds is fine. I think a lot of the other perks kind of need to accommodate for that. Like I think 100% like recovery with Unbreakable as well, and also with what's it called, exponential. Like 22-second pickups forever seems like ridiculous to me. But it's really hard to say when it comes to like things in the PTB, because people in the PTB usually just like limit test things as much as they can. And I don't know how much that really reflects on how things will play in like live servers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think that there's like a lot of things you can exploit, but like realistically, the people are gonna be exploiting that is gonna be like a swift, like dedicating something to that build. And like you said earlier, like how many times do you really run into people that just do that all the time? You know what I mean? But it's like I take everything that happens on the PTV with a grain of salt because it's really hard to see exactly how people are gonna play out in like the live servers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. People really
Yeah.
try to find the extremes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something I will say too that I think is important to kind of keep in mind, and something that I kind of realized last night is that the to actually play in the way that I was talking about, where we were abusing it, took a lot of coordination.
Oh yeah, for
Honestly,
sure.
like we had like 3 games or so where we were like struggling until we were like figuring it out, and it took like a lot of like really good communication and like coordination to the point where like if we would have just played the game normal, we probably would have shit on killers way more.
Mhm,
with that
100%.
with that level, we were like SEAL Team 6 in it by the end, right? Like we were really hardcore going at it. So I feel like if survivors are ever going that hard, you're probably gonna struggle no matter what. So I don't like again, I don't think it's gonna be as big of a deal as it's made out to
Agreed.
be, just because of how hard it is to actually do it sometimes.
Especially when it comes to like the things that we've seen on Twitter. Because people get like that one scenario that's like that amazing and they post it on Twitter and everyone's like, oh my God, this is busted. It can't come out like this. But like
Yeah.
you said, they don't understand like how much time it took to be able to pull that off, right? So I just like hope that people on Twitter just like calm down like a little bit. You know, I think I saw a clip of someone playing Bubba and got like a 4-man down with Bubba.
Oh,
And
and
people are like,
Shaq,
this Mori system's busted. You can't make it come out of this. I'm like, you guys all stood there and let it happen. This is not like an
Yeah.
actual scenario.
It almost
you know
seems
what
like
I
a
mean?
kill your friends. Yeah. Where you're like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
exactly what it looked like to me, but everyone on Twitter
Paid
is blowing
actors.
up about it. And it's like, okay, that Blight gameplay, though, that was nuts. Honestly, if you play Blight that well, you deserve a 4K at 5 seconds. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something to be said, and I think maybe not enough people know, but like, yeah, MMR is turned on a PTB, but like the sample size of players is abysmal, and at some point you'll just never get a game if the MMR is strict. So you are going to play against children, and I think that I think that Blight game. I don't know if it was I think it was a kill your friends based on like some of the comments and things like that, but you know, those types of matches will, you know, you're not going to be a killer going in there with Alkaring Eerie Tag and just wrecking Brain and
Mhm.
Survive. You know, that it's going to be harder. Now, things like Nurse, right? Again, that's the
Well,
peak.
that's
You know,
different.
that's it's Nurse. But yeah, I think that, and I trust behavior's ability to kind of weed through the feedback and figure out what's valuable, what is so
Mhm.
outside of the norm of the data set. You know, but the other side of things, I guess, you know, we were talking about Unbreakable and all that. Where do you fall, Tofu, with regards to Mori's going too fast, too easy, and anything of that nature?
Yeah, I find it weird that people even have an issue with it, because I feel like if any killer can ever down all 4 survivors within a 45-second period, are they not just gonna win the game anyway? Like, is
Yeah.
that not basically just game over? Like
Exactly what I
maybe,
said today.
yeah, like maybe an Unbreakable will come in or something, but even that probably won't save you. Like at that point, the killer has just like dominated the game. So
Mhm.
I don't really get why people are like upset about that. Like, if anything, I feel like it gets you out of the game faster, right? Like if you have an insane Blight player with like, you know, Eerie Tag, Alchemist Ring, and you're just like, Jesus, right? Like you just get out of that game faster and get to
Mhm.
another game, right? Like if anything, it's doing you a favor. So yeah, I don't really get the like the anger, or like the outrage about that, because I found it to be totally fine. I think I overall like all the changes, right? Again, I think like the main thing I'm concerned about is the people that might abuse the basekit Unbreakable. But I think if we don't look at that, right, and we look at like how it'll actually affect most normal play, I like it, because
Yeah.
I feel like it does solve like like some of the really unfun things that people do, right? Like if you ever find like a third seal knockout nurse, for instance, right? That'll just go around slugging everyone and never pick up. And it's just miserable, man. Like you just get down and then you lay on the ground and then you're like, oh, cool, this is great. And then eventually your buddy comes and picks you up, and the second he does, the nurse comes back and downs you again, and you're like, okay, well, this is
Mhm.
fun. And
Yeah.
like that, and like I feel like that kind of stuff just becomes not viable anymore. Like a lot of the more boring gameplays that killers can do become a lot less viable, which is
Mhm.
nice. Again, if it ends up like I feel like the benefit that it does there is probably going to be way more than the downside that it might do to killers. And this is coming from someone that clearly, I mean, if you guys don't know me, I'm way more of a killer man than a survivor man.
Right.
So like even as a killer player, I think it's gonna do like a lot better for the game because I think those situations that happen in survivors are like happen way more than the very rare situation that we'll probably get as killer where we get the people that are abusing it with like Unbreakable and Sabo and stuff. So yeah, overall I think it's great. And as a matter of fact, I actually think that it might be a buff to slugging, if that makes sense. And I don't know, like maybe that's a hot take, but I think it's
Expound.
actually
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's actually a buff to like short-term slugging. Because they actually okay, I might rant a little bit here, I'm sorry.
I'll go
But
for it.
Go in,
please.
go in.
okay, but they but like okay, so right now in the base game, like not on PTB, if you get downed and you just recover to full, right, or to basically 95%, it takes 30 seconds roughly,
Yeah.
right, to get from 0 to full before a teammate can come one tap you up. And on the PTB, it now takes 45. Like they made recovery take way longer. It's like a 50% decrease to recovery time. So just in general, you recover way slower now. Again, this is without Unbreakable, but um, so I feel like now, if as killer, if you're actually slugging in a way that's smart, if you're not doing the thing where you down someone and then you just completely leave and go the whole way across the map and completely ignore them, right? Because again, that's not very fun anyway. But if you're doing the thing where maybe you down someone and then you see another injured survivor nearby and you're like, I can get that down before this guy gets picked up, right? And you want to like go get that other down real quick, you can do that and then come back to that first guy, and there's a higher chance that they'll still be there because it's harder for them to get up, right? Like if a teammate runs to heal them whenever you walk away, they'll have less of a recovery bar than they would before because it's recovering slower, right? Like overall, you have a higher chance of somebody still being there on the ground in like a short span than you would before because of how slow the recovery is. Like it overall kind of helps in that way, but it only helps if you're smart about slugging, which I think is good. Like I think rewarding smart slugging and like kind of adding that kind of like skill and knowledge gap where you have to really know what you're doing and know when to do it and when not to do it to actually get rewarded. And if you do it too carelessly, you get, punished for it. I think is actually really, really good and like really healthy for the actual like play style and for the game.
Yeah, yeah. Dro, where do you fall on that?
I literally agree with everything Tofu said because I said the same exact thing. Like I strongly believe that this patch is eliminating so much of like the boring parts of DBD for me, which is like Tofu said, being slugged for 4 minutes straight because someone's just trying to find all the survivors, or the Mori system makes sure like the games that would be dragged out don't get dragged out anymore, which I really like. And then the fact that Tofu also said that like the people that are going to be abusing this, does that outweigh the people who are going to benefit from this? There's a lot of the solo queue people or just like, the casual players and stuff. Because most of the people are going to be dealing with this mostly are people like us who play this game for a living and just, play constantly. We're going to be versing other Swifts who are also streamers who do this for their content, right? So I feel like the normal or like more casual players who just do this for fun are not going to deal with this as much. So I 100% agree with that. And I also agree that like if I'm versing a nurse that managed to get 3 of us down in the first 30 seconds of the game, I honestly my morale is down at that point. I don't want to continue that game because even if we recover, I'm like, okay, we're all have one hook in. Let's try to do a gen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Much rather just GG go next. And everyone who's complaining about that on Twitter, let's be honest, you hear that nurse blink the first time, you either DC or you just give up immediately anyways.
Yeah.
So like, you know what? Like, I think it's fine. A lot of
Mhm.
people are mad at me for saying that I think it's fine on Twitter, but like honestly, I think people are over exaggerating it.
Mhm.
I don't think you're gonna come across a bit as much as they think they are. And if someone is that cracked at the game, like honestly, like yeah, GG go next. My survivor queue is 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't mind that at all. There are some holes in this that I would like to get maybe some tweaks here and there, but overall, I like these changes, and I think it'd be kind of cool for the game personally.
Yeah.
I will miss Mori Mondays though, but aside from that, like it's good.
It's all the time just Moriing. Yeah. I had a gut reaction. I have to admit this live on the podcast. I had a gut reaction. I read the patch notes and they had mentioned that if you heal somebody who's on the ground, that's still 16 seconds. And at first I was like, I don't like that. That should take longer just because I'm killer scum. But when I heard it and I digested it, I think I fall very much in line with Tofu of like, my initial fear was gens before friends at like at a high level of play. Why would you pick your teammate up? They'll get themselves up, but with the heal speed being the same, but the self pickup speed being really long, it still in my mind encourages like you should go get your buddy. It'll take so much less time. That is the incentive, is that you're not wasting a ton of time, and so I I feel, and again, because MMRs are kind of goofy and stuff like that in the PTB, I tried to play mostly normal matches. Whether people like that or not, I don't know. But when I was playing Killer, and yeah, it wasn't, you know, as Pyramid Head, you know, I got some slugs and stuff like that, but it didn't. I don't know. It didn't feel like it was so broken such a long period of time that people were staying slugged and like just couldn't do anything back. People were getting up by the time I'd walk across the map and get like the next down or whatever. But simultaneously, they were able to get themselves up, and I think there's something really actually good in that. I know we're seeing a lot of the extremes and we're having these knee jerks, and you know we're seeing the videos that are like, "This is broken." We have to, you know, remember the PTB is a very special place, and it's not in any sort of way realistic, which is a problem. You know, I wish console players could dive into a PTB, and you know, I wish we could expose that. That's a different conversation, but so I guess to address fears, right? To address like what could be different. Now, I personally have seen Ottstarva's feedback regarding this, and feel like it's important to loop him in and see what you guys think. But you know, there have been talks of like, okay, well, what do we think about turning like Unbreakable down a bit? You know, I think he suggests about a 25% increase instead of 100, which would put your 45-second recovery just above 30 seconds, which is about kind of where it is now standard. But like if you're recovering, show your aura to your survivor buddies or something like that, or see the killer, you know, just some sort of, where do you guys fall on changes to Unbreakable or changes to Exponential or changes to any of these things just to lower that sort of quote unquote abusable threshold?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how I've been feeling about it. I think Unbreakable is really the only thing that I'm actually that concerned about. Like, I feel like the rest of it feels fine to me. Unbreakable is the thing that feels like it makes it, because again, like I feel like on the PTB when I did try to play just normal games as Killer, and I would try to like utilize slugging, it felt like if they had Unbreakable, it felt like I just could not, like even if like one or two people had it, I feel like I just couldn't slug at all. Like it was just so insane. It was so powerful. And I feel like it just getting unlimited uses is just nuts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing, and I'm just gonna throw out a suggestion, and like maybe it's dumb and maybe it has holes too, but I wouldn't mind seeing Unbreakable just being still a one-time use, but just being like a way high number, like a ridiculous number, like 400% or something. But then one-time use, right? So you can pick yourself up.
Say the same thing.
Oh man,
you can just get me after this. I was like, yeah, like a one-time use Unbreakable, I think would have been sick. God damn it, Tofu.
I guess I let you talk first. I feel like I keep talking first and taking your thing to say. Fuck. All right, well, as HiDro said, I agree that I think it should be a one-time use. It should be a one-time use, but a really, really high number.
Well, damn, I like the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to me, that's really the only issue too, right?
Yeah.
I think if Unbreakable doesn't come to live as it is, or like I don't know if it did come to live as it was right now, I guess I should say Unbreakable would really be the only thing that I had a big issue with. Like even Exponential, I don't think is that big of a deal, right? You have to set up a boon. You have to be in like the boon area to make it work. Like the killer can obviously hear the boon and maybe snuff it or whatever. But Unbreakable, it's just like no matter where you are and when it is, you're always getting the benefit, and it just feels like a little bit too much. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, when we look at the landscape of everything, because right now there's a lot of conversation about power struggle. And like, oh, if you have Exponential and Unbreakable, you only have to be down for like 4 seconds to get like a power struggle play, which is egregious. But can you nerf power struggle? No, that thing is already requires
It's
3
not
other
great.
perks. It's a whole so yeah,
but with that though, like even in current live, if isn't that the same thing live? If you have a build with like flip flop, power struggle, Unbreakable, if you get left on the floor for like 3 seconds, if you get picked up, it's an instant power struggle.
Yeah.
Even though I know how to counter power struggle, just a heads up, I have a video on it.
swing baby.
Yeah. It's one of those things you could already do. You could probably do it better now than you can in the PTB.
Oh, probably better, sure, but like I feel people are just
Yeah.
also dedicating an entire build for that like one value.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, I can see an argument being made for infinite pickups. So, you know, as like a killer in live now, and this situation just never comes up. So I think we do have to check our expectations at the door of what could come to live. But, you know, now it's like, oh, if everybody, God forbid, has power struggle, well, then I'm just going to leave you down and then chase somebody else. And you know, somebody's going to have to come off a gen and pick you up. I think the problem comes the infinite pickups at that point of like constantly picking. So there, I can't even slug that guy because he's just gonna whoop and then But yeah, I fall very much in that same scenario of like it's kind of already a thing. It's just the buffed speed, and which isn't buffed Unbreakable, still 23 seconds, but in live right now. But yeah, that is something that I've heard circling around, and if any behavior developers are listening, we hear you. So yeah, and I think Unbreakable kind of comes down to being sort of the culprit, and you could say like, oh, maybe Expo and Unbreakable don't stack or something. I think Exponential never gets used because, quite frankly, as a boon, Circle of Healing is the only thing really.
Well, but if like Tofu said, they were to change Unbreakable for one-time use, then like Exponential have like so much more value to be used, right?
Sure.
Just infinite pickups with the 100% speed, and because you have to set it up and be in the boon, I feel like that's more fair than just like having Unbreakable and just being able to do that.
Yeah.
Because my biggest concern when it comes to this is that the only scenario that I could think of is someone has Unbreakable and they down like at a pallet and someone's nearby with the flashlight. I have to try to push them away in order to pick this person up, but they could waste like 22 seconds is like not that much time to waste. So and the other people are just on gens, right? So it's only one person instead coming over to try to help. So that's the only situation where I see the biggest problem with this base kit plus Unbreakable. That's why I think like a one-time use situation, or at least be like, okay, that's done, and like I don't have to worry about that in the future.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's important.
I think the other issue I have with like with Unbreakable too is it feels like, I think they talked about this when Circle of Healing first came out and then they nerfed it, is they don't like it feels weird to have multiple perks that achieve the same thing, like you said, with like the boon and also Unbreakable, and I guess you could also throw like No Mither and like maybe like Tenacity into this mix too. Like if there's multiple perks that all have the same goal of achieving the same thing of like, hey, let's get you in a position where you can pick yourself up off the ground. It's weird if one of them is like way dominant over the rest, right?
Right.
Like, it's weird if one of them is a no-brainer and the others are just like, why would I run? Like again, it's like why would I run Exponential when we could just run Unbreakable, right?
Exactly.
And like that seems bad. Like I feel like it's better to have it so that there's like different options that all kind of like have benefits over each other, so you can be like, oh well, maybe we can try Exponential, maybe we can try Unbreakable. Like they're like one's not clearly better than the other, but like in the PTB I feel like Unbreakable is just clearly better than every other one, so it's just like, why would you run anything else?
Yeah. And you're definitely right. Circle of Healing came out. I was like, it's so fast. You bring it once, everybody's got it.
Yeah.
Like who? Why even bring a med kit
like
anymore?
6 months of my life in DBD. That was awful, dude.
I think that's why people hate Michaela the most, honestly. Just from it's just PTSD to a
out.
dark
No
time.
offense.
Yeah. So I think that was a really solid discussion about 6.3. Was there anything else I think in there? Not being sarcastic, that maybe we missed that we haven't covered that you guys have a burning desire to talk about?
Yeah, the most important nerf to the game right now with the flashlights. Like,
yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking about just making a comment about how everyone's overreacting to that. Like,
for sure.
I don't get it.
And the overreaction I keep seeing on Twitter, which I hate, is the fact that like, well, behavior really cared about like the accessibility that would change everything else. In my head, like this is the step in the direction to make those changes, right?
Yeah.
So, like, are they supposed to do every single thing in one patch? Like,
this makes and honestly, like the strobe light effect, like it was just mostly for like a little troll, so I don't mind that being gone. And if it helps out people who like have epilepsy and stuff, I'm all for it. Yeah, and I'm sure behavior is going to come up with other stuff to adjust in the future as well. I feel like it's like a step in the right direction, but people are just freaking out about it because
that's
DBD Twitter.
Doing all or nothing is it's always strange. Like, well, if you're gonna fix it, fix all of it. Like, no, I think we can chisel away at problems. For me, I used to be good at flash. I don't know what happened. I think I'm getting old. So for flashlight saves now, I'd unclick and then re-click just to get that little delay and like readjust my timing. Can't do that now. Super sad. Just gonna stick to flashbangs.
See, I've heard that, but I didn't see an issue with that in the PTB.
I
didn't try it because I didn't play Survivor. I didn't play Survivor.
You still could, and
you can still do it.
We'll still do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting.
That's been one of the biggest complaints I've seen is they're like, oh, you can't readjust your timing, but like you it feels like you can. I think the main difference is that when you click, it like forces you to hold it for like at least like half a second before it unclicks. But like as long as you're if you're trying to get a flashlight save and you're a little bit early, you can still like release and then instantly do it again, but like you just can't like spam it, right? Like the way it keeps you from spamming is that you can't like let go instantly. You can like redo it instantly once you do let go, but you can't just like let go.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the bigger complaint that I've heard that is like the more valid complaint is like you guys know there's like, you know, like I just got done watching an Aaron video on YouTube and now I'm trying to be like him. And they do like the like click juke where they like click to like turn their character around and then like 360 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you guys are killer players, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that ever fucking worked on you?
No.
Yeah, me neither. It's a terrible juke. Why do they try it?
Every time they do it, they go down immediately, and I just think they're trying to troll me. I didn't know there was like a tech for that.
I feel like console players, I feel for you out there because you're over there like throwing your PlayStation 5 controller right now. Like it gets me every time, but like, you know, just don't swing so early, my guy, you know?
No, here's the thing. I'm actually kind of spinnable, dude. Like in my old age, I've become spinnable. I get 360 sometimes, dude. It happens. Like I've gotten spun. I'm not afraid to admit it. A really good survivor can spin me on occasion. It happens. But I've never gotten spun from like a flashlight click 360. They feel so bad. They feel so stupid.
Well, and they're obvious. They're like, hey, guess what I'm about to do? You're like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just
I thought that was them just being like, I'm about to go down. I'm just gonna click this flashlight. I didn't realize they're trying to do something with that.
Yeah, no, it like changes the way the survivor faces so they can get like a better like start to their spin or whatever. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it looks super flashy. So if you're making like a montage or something, I'm sure it like looks amazing in it. But I feel like any killer that would get 360'd by that is just gonna get 360'd by a regular good spin because it feels less good than a regular spin. Like it's never worked on me ever. It just feels bad.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the only like kind of complaint I've heard is that is now like, I don't know if it's impossible or if it's just harder, but that got nerfed, which I can maybe see people being upset about. But the whole like readjusting thing is like absurd to me. Pretty much every other thing I've heard about as far as flashlight goes feels like not even a complaint. It feels like people are just mad just to be mad. Like I don't
For sure.
I need to. Okay, I'm gonna dig and see if I can find some of that beautiful bean footage and put that just like over because like I haven't seen a clip. I kind of want to find one now though because when people are mad about things, I like to throw water on the fire.
I believe I can get you the clip because I know where it came from.
Ooh,
so I got you.
Cool, thank you. So we have a little bit of time left. I want to transition into. I think I just want to hear your thoughts primarily, but and if you're not comfortable enough to say anything about it, not that I don't know why you wouldn't be, but I want to talk briefly about cheating because you know we haven't had a podcast episode about cheating and hacking. We haven't had a podcast episode to talk about what behavior is said about cheating and hacking. But with them having addressed it and everything, and you're a notable content creator, so you know you're going to experience a very different scenario than me. So where do you fall right now with like cheating, hacking? How is that affecting you, and what would you like to see?
So with me, it's interesting because I don't know whether it's like the fact that I stream like ungodly late hours or what's going on, but I really haven't been as hard targeted as other people. And I don't know why. It's not something that I try to not talk about cheating too much because like, I don't know why I'm not being as hard targeted. I'm not trying to like poke that bear, right? I'm not trying to be like, yeah, hackers don't come for me. I'm like, hey, that's fine. You guys don't come for me. That's cool. I'm just gonna chill and do my thing, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I try not to poke the bear too much. I just don't know why. Like I don't like get held hostage very often at all. Like I know there's some people like I know, for instance, I saw like Spooky Loops talking recently about how he can't even play the game anymore because like he'll have like entire like hours long sessions where like every single lobby will be like hackers that are trying to hold him hostage. So I'm like, oh my god, like it sounds brutal for some of these guys, man, and it makes me feel so bad. Like there's nothing like if anybody that streams has ever had like an internet issue when you're trying to stream and you just can't stream when you want to. That's like basically what this is, but like even worse, basically.
With like malicious, somebody's being malicious on the other side, so it's way worse.
Yeah, which I've also had. I mean, I've had issues in the past with like DDoSing and stuff, and it sucks to have like just somebody basically having that control over you. It's like this person is basically just has so much control over me that I can't even do my job. Like that sucks, and it makes me feel so bad for those guys, man. Like I don't know. I feel so awful. Again, myself, I am lucky and blessed that I don't have to deal with it as much as others. Thank God. And I hope that it doesn't happen. I don't know why I haven't been targeted as hard, and I'm hoping that like, you know, it doesn't happen. I'm not trying to poke no bears or nothing. I just hopefully it doesn't fucking come to that, but I do think the situation sucks. The problem is I just don't really know like what to do about it, right? Because obviously like combating cheating is tough. Like a lot of people are just like, oh, behavior should just ban them and just have better anti-cheat. And it's like, dude, it's not that easy. Like I feel like so many people are like armchair, you know, programmers and armchair devs when it comes to this kind of thing where they just think like combating cheating is easy. It's like, and you know, here's another thing that I want to say that I feel like not a lot of people recognize. Do you remember whenever cheating was a major problem, maybe like 6 to 8 months ago, and it was like in like every game there was like cheaters, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, cheaters are running wild." And then there was then like a period of like maybe 5 months where there was just no cheaters. And
Mhm.
no one really talked about it. Like behavior actually handled it. They just silently handled it. And there was like no cheaters for like 5 months. But no one seems to ever like think about that or like give them credit and be like, "Oh yeah, remember that time that behavior actually did handle cheaters?" Because they did
Yeah.
at one point. Like it did get handled. And then the cheaters just then came back.
Yeah.
It's a constant arms race, right? Like behavior must have did something that kept them out. And then, during that like 5 months where they were gone or whatever, they figured out a way to get around to whatever behavior did, and now they're back and they are in like the upper hand, right? So it's just like a constant arms race, and there's really no way to like I don't know how to like expedite the process, right? Like how do you expedite the devs winning the arms race? I have no idea. Like you can say like, oh, they need to put more resources in it, but we don't know how many. I mean, they could be putting a bunch of resources into it. It doesn't. We don't really know. Like it's hard to say. So it's tough. Like I don't know. In terms of like actual like short-term solutions, I guess maybe that's the better thing to talk about is like short-term solutions. And as far as that goes, like it's tough. I mean, I'm curious to know like what you guys been thinking about the idea of just like disabling DC penalties, for instance, right? Like it's like a scary like, for instance, I'm all for DC penalties. I'm just gonna say that. Like I know when when they first added it, a lot of people were against it. I like DC penalties. I think people like, especially like a single survivor player, like rage quitting out of a match feels like it just ruins the match for
Awful.
everybody. And I hate it. I hate it. I think they should be punished for that. But also, like, this feels like a weird time right now where I feel like I wouldn't be mad at, even as someone that's very like pro DC penalty, I would not be mad at all about them disabling it right now because like what are some of these people supposed to do,
Yeah.
And I feel like if you take away that ability for hackers to like force multi-hour bans on people, they might be a little less inclined to try to hold individual hackers hostage, right? Because I feel like that's a big thing that drives them to do it, is that they know that if they do it enough times, they basically put the streamer in a spot where they have no choice because they can't DC or else they get like a 2-hour penalty. And if they stay, they have to wait 2 hours. I feel like if you take that away and the streamers always have the option to just leave, and not even streamers, even just people, like I don't even think it should just be streamers. I think they should just do it for everyone, honestly. Just if anybody, is held hostage, just they could just leave. Then I feel like hackers would probably have less incentive to do it, you would think?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in like a hard stance with the DC penalty because I don't know if everyone remembers when there wasn't a DC penalty, having like a legit game was like very hard to do, especially as a killer. If you do something remotely good at the start of a game, people just like leave.
Yeah.
Right. And that for making content as well, that's hard because if I'm trying to do a YouTube video or something like that, it's like multiple recordings because if someone like leaves after like a couple good shots, it's a redo, right? I would like maybe like a surrender feature, maybe implemented that way. If this happens, you can just like leave the game with a surrender. I think that would be nice. It's just scary for me to have the DC penalty removed because just remember how it was and how much of a nightmare it was.
Yeah.
But if there's no other like temporary fix, I guess for now I'd be okay with that as well because what you just said made a lot of sense. But the whole like if they don't have the incentive of holding someone hostage and getting them timed out for so long, they might just stop.
Yeah.
So I didn't think of that. So that's actually pretty smart. I do agree with that, maybe.
Yeah, it's because it sucks because I'm right there with you too. I'm also
Mhm.
kind of terrified of no DC penalty as well. Like I do feel like even with a DC penalty, it feels like sometimes people just rage quit over
100%.
anything.
Yeah.
Like you like hit one good shot or you down someone a little bit too fast in the early game, and then they just leave, and you're like, really? Like over that? Like you're gonna leave over that,
Which
And
makes for super boring content, right? So it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's been so many times where like you do some like nasty shit in a game and you're like, oh, this could be like a great YouTube video, and then people just rage quit. And you're like, oh well, game ruined. Never mind.
Mhm.
Game ruined. Like forget it.
Yep.
And it just it sucks. It is really scary. So I agree. Like it's definitely not the ideal fix for me, but I feel like if there's nothing else, I feel like at least it would allow like again, it would allow people like Spooky and Oz to at least do their
100%.
fucking job. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Mhm.
so bad for those guys. Like I don't know. I feel like my empathy for those guys and my I don't know. I feel like I would be willing to deal with like whatever consequences for the sake of them being able to do their fucking job. Basically,
I agree.
is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I agree. So because I've been watching them for so long, watching them like go through this and like their videos they made on YouTube made me so sad.
Yeah.
And like this is like there's a livelihood, right? They have to do this and they love the game and it sucks that they can't enjoy right now. So I do agree a lot with that for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I made my video kind of piece on it, but I don't I would love a world where we could turn off DC penalties and like it doesn't make everything really rough. I had a lot of people in my comment section just be like, I've experienced maybe 2 cheaters, 2 hackers. So, I as a content creator, I don't know how in my bubble I am. How often does this happen to like a general populace versus us, and that I don't have a good way of gauging that. And so it's like, do we turn DC penalties off, and like, does that hurt more like the general populace of players than the hacking and cheating, and that's a tough call. I don't have any way of kind of knowing, but I do think there's something kind of interesting in like, if you turn off the DC penalties when you like temporarily, when you do turn them on, is that a signal that you fixed the leak, right? Is that a signal to cheaters and hackers like, all right, off to the races, go find what they did because they've turned the penalties back on, it's super weird to look for like the almost subliminal like messaging behind some of the actions, to figure out, how it could go wrong or be exploited or
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like, to be fair, I feel like the hackers are gonna know once their stuff stops working, right? Like, I feel like I feel like they don't need the message. Like, they're gonna be like, oh wait, our stuff's not working, and they're probably gonna like get together with all their developer buddies and try to figure it out. Exactly.
That's the
So
thing,
I
though,
feel
right? With these hackers, like they just spend all day doing this,
Yeah.
which is harder because I'm sure behavior has all these things implemented to like kind of stop it. But the hackers that are doing this are just doing this 24/7 to try to like get around that. And I don't know why Dead by Daylight is being plagued so heavy compared to other games, at least in the moment. It's just very bizarre to
Yeah.
me.
It's
Yeah,
interesting because like, doesn't Fortnite use like easy anti-cheat? Like easy anti-cheat is not, I mean, to my knowledge, like quote unquote bad, So I don't, that's something I just always want to bring it, because people go, it's like, oh, just get a better anti-cheat. And I'm like, what, how do you qualify that? What does that mean in real terms?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so hard to like give. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to like talk about that kind of thing unless you like are really deep in the industry. Because I feel like I know that I'm not qualified to talk about it. I know
Mhm.
I know there's some people that like will act like they're qualified to talk about it, but then you hear what they say and you're like, I'm not qualified, and even to me it sounds like you're full of shit. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure you don't know what you're talking about. So like it's one of those hard things where like even people that act like they know what they know, people that act like they know what they're talking about when it comes to stuff probably don't. And it's just really like it's a really tough thing to talk about because none of us really, I shouldn't say none of us, but very few of us really actually know what it means to like have an anti-cheat, or what makes an anti-cheat good or bad, or what steps you can actually take to do it, right? Like I don't know if it's possible to like go into your servers and like be like, okay, hey, if a survivor ever goes past this certain movement speed per second, then they instantly get banned, right? Like I don't know if that, like, how possible that is, or like just like little things like that like could be done, right? Like who
Mhm.
knows like how reasonable it is to do that based on like the servers that they rent and also the anti-cheat that they use. Like I don't know like what all can be done there.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to like give suggestions and like give, I don't know, like it's hard to be like hard on them and give them shit for not doing more, and it's also hard to like give feedback when I just don't really know what
Yeah.
all goes into it and what all is possible,
Yeah. I mean, that's the crux of it is, and I think that's what puts behavior in such a unique position of well, if you say anything, you can't say too much, but then if you say just a little bit, you have that sort of like overflow of people being like, well, you should do this, and people making
Mhm.
videos about just make it so the code the servers, and I'm like, I don't think that's how that works. I don't know, but
Yeah,
that sounds a
yeah.
little goofy. Just code the servers, bro. So yeah, it's very very strange, but I'm glad there is a roadmap. It is something that I think and like things like a better ticketing tool or feedback when you report a cheater. I think a lot of people have the idea now, they're like, oh, reports don't matter, but I am a psychopath and I take the Steam IDs or like the Steam names of anybody I report on Steam, and I will check them like 2 weeks later just for VAC bans to see if they were banned or not. And I think like 80% of the time they are,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I mean, I was held hostage the other day. I made a YouTube short about it. That'll be up in the feed. It was fun. It was a pig with hatchets. But but I'm not plagued with it the way that like Spooky and Knots are, and I hope that
Mhm.
there's a better solution. I think a big problem right now is like static cloud IDs that are never shuffled or changed, but I don't know on the back end how hard that is to fix, or how. I don't know if you guys remember, but do you remember PlayStation Network? You created your PlayStation Network account name and you could never change it until 10 years later when they had to like make an alias for your name because they couldn't change your name because it just would break everything. And so the alias had to point to your original. It was a whole mess. How in the weeds is behavior? Is it adjacent to that situation where they're like they built this cloud ID system so long ago that they're like, oh fuck, dude, we can't just change them, you know? I think there's something interesting in like stuff runs deep because when they made this game, quite honestly, it feels like they were a little green and new, and it's developed and changed in wonderful ways. But how much of that is a holdover and is like so integrated that you can't just swap the parts, you know?
Yeah, I think a big thing that a lot of people don't realize in general about DBD is that like, and again, this is me like this is partially me assuming and partially me going off of like things I've literally heard the devs say like early on in dev streams and stuff. This game was not, I don't think, meant to be a game that lasted this long. I'm pretty sure when they made DBD, they were just like they were like, hey, let's make a fun game, and like it probably won't last very long, but whatever. Like we'll just have some fun with it. It's like it'll be a fun horror game. And then when it took off the way it did, they were like, oh, let's run with this. Like this could actually be really good. And they've done an amazing job of running, right? Like look at it. I mean, the fact that this game is still thriving and doing as well as it is 6 years later is insane. But it was, I'm pretty sure it was, I mean, the team was literally like 38 people total or something when the game was first made. Like it was a super small team.
God.
They coded it like there's some other things I know about like the coding of it and stuff that I don't even know what all I can say, but like it was done like quickly and like
they used to use like
wasn't
blueprints, right? Like Unreal blueprints, and it was like drag and drop, and it was there's some real like more simple stuff to my knowledge and then they, you know, they've had to kind of redo.
and like a lot of it was rushed, right? Like if you remember, if anyone played like when the game was first released, there was a lot of stuff that was like broken and OP because a lot of it was like kind of rushed out, right? It was just like I don't think they ever thought the game was going to be like this big thing. They thought it was just going to be like a fun horror game that people played for a while, and then, you know, once people got bored of it, like they would eventually move on to a new project or whatever. And now it took off. And then people got to remember that like now when the game needs change, like when the game was first, like the foundation fundamental coding of the game was made quickly by a group of like 30 some people. I mean, not even 30. I mean, how many of those people were even the actual coders and programmers? I don't know, maybe like 10. Like it was probably coded by like 10 people. Those 10 people probably don't even work at the company anymore. Like some of them do, but some of them are like high ups. Like they're like executives now. Like most of the people that are programmers now, I think I could actually maybe say confidently all the people that are programmers now are people that weren't there when the game first started. So it's like these people that are basically being thrown in like they're like still hiring people every day, right? Like they're hiring people and they're like, hey, welcome to this game. It's been out for 6 years. Here's some code that someone made in like in like a month, like 6 years ago. We need you to take this and like make changes to it. Yeah, and it's like what? Like they don't know the game in and out, and they also like they're working on like 6-year-old code that like you know was made by someone else that doesn't even work at the company anymore. And it's like, you know, things are gonna be a little bit like hard sometimes. Like it's gonna be hard to make certain changes sometimes because of that. It makes me feel like the concept of like a DBD 2 could be really cool, but obviously like that's probably not realistic. But I do think that does have a lot of like, for instance, whenever anyone talks about like a replay mode or a theater mode, that's the kind of stuff that they talk about. They're like, yeah, well, like our fundamental coding we have like doesn't allow it. Like we would have to like recode the entire game in order to allow that. And I think there's a lot of things that like that kind of comes back to, right? That like the game, we're going off of like the fundamental code of the game from 6 years ago that wasn't really meant to support any of the stuff that they want to do now. And it's tough. And like there's really no way to fix it too. Like you make a DBD 2, then you follow the Overwatch route where like your first game just ends up dying because there's no updates while you're working on the second. So there's really no good solution. Like I don't think making DBD 2 is even a good solution. Like that would probably kill the game too. But I just think it's an important thing to keep in mind. Like I think a lot of people don't think about that when they think about changes, and especially like when things like when there's patches that are like kind of buggy and stuff, and they're like, oh my god, these devs suck. And it's like, do they, or do they just have a really hard task? Like is their job just really hard and they're doing the best they can, but there's gonna be some hiccups? Like
like comments like that get under my skin so much because like I interact with a lot of devs like on Twitter and stuff, and these people are like one of the most sweetest, first of all, and they work so hard and are so passionate about the game. And like people that say this stuff on Twitter, they don't realize that actually like hurts them. Because like Stephanie once time made a tweet saying that like she saw something on Reddit, someone saying that like the devs don't care about this. And she's like, well, I just spent like 16 hours trying to work on something today, and like it sucks hearing this kind of feedback because they do care. And I just wish that like the community would like realize that, because these devs are actually like very interactive, very awesome, and they want to make things better. They don't want this game to die. It doesn't make any sense to want the game not to do well, right?
Yeah. I've taken I've taken a couple trips out to Montreal to to their studios before COVID hit,
Mhm.
and I can't talk about a lot because then like NDA stuff,
Sure,
but
yeah.
like I'll just say that I wish that everybody had a chance to actually do it and like meet the developers at the very least. Because when you actually do, like it's kind of like you said, when you like, especially like in person, like meeting them, talking to
Mhm.
them, like having conversations with them, it's crazy how much you can see how much they care and like how
Yep.
passionate they are. Like I remember the first time I ever went out there and I met everybody, it like changed my entire perspective on everything. Like I immediately I came back and I was like, wow, the devs are actually like awesome. Like they're
Mhm.
so cool. They care so much. Like you can see the passion in them. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. And it instantly made me like want to be more understanding about almost anything that happened. Because I was like, there's no way that those guys are like just not caring. Like
Mhm.
those people that I met, those people that I saw and met and had conversations with, there's no way that they're doing this kind of stuff out of not caring. You
Mhm.
know, and I
Right.
just wish that like more people could have that opportunity because I think people would be would be less harsh on them if they did, you know.
Great.
Obviously that's unrealistic,
For
unrealistic.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Like let's have everyone meet the devs, but like I don't know. It is a shame because yeah, like those comments annoy me a lot too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even not meeting them in person, like follow them on Twitter, y'all. You can find them so easy. Like
True.
I haven't met them in person, but I get that vibe just from their tweets. You know what I mean?
Only follow
From
them
the
if you're
interactions I
not
have
gonna
with my
harass them,
post.
please.
Don't harass them, of
For the
course.
love of God.
But but I'm just saying that like I got
Yeah.
that energy that Tofu got. Like not, I wish I could go in person because I want to experience that in person. But like even just via their interactions with my content, like you can just see that like they really love the game. They love seeing people love the game. And just like don't shit on people because you don't understand coding or game dev and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's just like what I always ask people to think about. Sorry,
Yeah.
Dylan, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that there's a difference between critique and I've talked about this on Twitter, but there's a difference between critique and then like sort of inflammatory language towards people. The devs are incompetent or the devs. I think we have to be very careful about that because unless you can do that job, I don't think you can gauge how smart or capable somebody else is at that job. I mean, there are the fringe cases where that is not doesn't hold up, right? But we see a lot of the negativity there, but I think you also have to be aware that sometimes these people pull. I mean, like they're regularly pulling lots of work hours,
Mhm.
and very few of them are going home and becoming DBD pros. And that's so when you deliver feedback, you have to understand that, like, yeah, some of them would probably play the game, but just enough to to treat it as a party game, really low MMR, just like so they understand what they're doing. Because asking them to play 5,000 hours or 10, that's actually insane. And that's where your feedback is invaluable. And I think that we should all kind of take that more as a responsibility and a role to deliver feedback to improve this instead of armchair telling them how smart or not they are or aren't.
Hmm.
If you care about the game, you give feedback, but if you care about insulting people, then you go the other route. So
Mhm.
choose what you care about, because yeah, these are real people, and some of them literally don't create social media accounts or can't go on Reddit because it sucks to read those kinds of things about yourself all the time, indirectly about yourself. But so yeah, I think to put a bow on whether you feel one way or another about this PTB or about Mori's or about Unbreakable or cheating and hacking, nobody wants people to be unsafe. I think I don't think people want people at behavior. I don't think I would like to believe they don't want people to be DDoSed or doxed when it comes to cheating and hacking. I don't think they want Spooky and Ots to have to go through this. And when it comes to these changes are their creative vision for the game, and a lot of people put a lot of work into a lot of things, and it's okay to like what Tofu said, be like, I think that's a little corny. That's fine, right? That stuff is fine. It's when you kind of cross that line that
Mhm.
are you really being helpful? So is there anything else that we didn't cover, Dro or Tofu? Anything else that you guys thought is worth bringing up?
Um, I guess one more thing I wanted to talk about before we leave the cheating aspect, because I know this is something that happened in the past, and I know it's something that has been suggested. I just wanted to ask what your guys' opinion was on the concept of maybe like selective DC penalty removal. Like, for instance, like certain streamers that get like targeted. Like I know like there was like the Fog Whisper thing or
Oof.
whatever. But like in general, like what like if they just did like because in my opinion, they can't just do Fog Whispers because
Right.
then you're
Yep.
leaving out like other streamers that like have to deal with it that aren't Fog
Sure.
Whispers. But then also, like, how do you, if you're like, okay, well, then you're streamers in general. But then if you do that, like, how do you determine like which ones get in on it and which ones don't? Right? Like, it feels almost like this like thing where it's like hard to balance. Like, okay, where do you draw the line in terms of like letting people be in on it and not? Like, I don't know. Do you guys think anything like that's a good idea? Like selective DC penalty removal?
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, but I think that would be okay. I personally think that DBD thrives on their content creators, and that's what keeps the game successful. And if you have content creators like yourself, or Odds, or Spooky Loops, who are like the top creators, but they can't create content, I feel like that's a hindrance to the game itself. And I personally would be okay with that. Like, I'm a content creator and like whatever, but I don't get targeted like that. I get hackers every now and then, but I don't get held hostage on my stream for 2 hours at a time. So I
Yeah.
think if there's like a history of a creator being targeted constantly like that, I feel like giving them the ability to DC themselves would be okay, because clearly those hackers are going after them specifically, right? Because they're going after, not only are they just doing that to like fuck with like the streamers, they're also doing that to show off their hacks so they could sell the hacks to other people. They're
Yeah.
hijacking their audience while they're trying to make content and make a living, and they can't just like deal with that anymore. So I think it'd be okay. I know we're gonna like eat me alive for saying that, but I think it'd be okay, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I'm sitting with it. It's in my belly. I don't like how it's gestating. It's giving me the burps. I like I see like I really empathize with that, but how far does the community take it, right? When you're watching your favorite streamer and they get to DC, like how far do those
See,
kinds of players take that?
yeah, see, I feel like it can only work if they like literally have like like a community. Like, I don't even know if they might have to hire someone for this or something, which would be insane if they had to. But like, I feel like they would need to have like a community manager or something that literally was like monitoring it. And if anybody that was given the privilege to DC without a penalty, if they were like abusing that and they were like DCing too much, or unnecessarily, then like it could maybe be like reported by like, I don't know. I'm sure like salty people would be all over that and be reporting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like if there was reports of it, then like take away, like, hey, well, sorry, we tried to help you out, but like you're abusing it. So like have fun with your hackers, right?
Yeah.
So like if they were like, I feel like it could only work if they were really on top of it, right? Like if they like if you were like, hey, look, here's like a VOD of me getting like targeted by hackers. Like you submit that to the devs, and they're like, okay, you clearly are being targeted. Here, we'll do you a favor, and we'll like get ready for DC penalties. And then if at any point anybody like shows footage of that same streamer like abusing it, then it's like, oh well, like fuck you then. Like we tried to help you, but I guess we'll just take it away now. And I think if they had a system like that, it could work. But again, that requires a lot of manpower from behavior side, right? Like I'm sure their community managers are busy doing other things. So like it's hard to be like, yeah, just have your employees take this other job now where they got to do this other thing. So I don't know. That would be a system that I would be cool with. And again, I think it could work with like any like size streamer. I mean, I don't know like what like smaller streamers, like once you get to a certain level of small stream, I don't know at that point if the hackers are even going to be targeting you that much. But like if they do, you could just like submit it to somewhere and maybe like have it, like have something done. But then again, maybe people might eat us alive about this, because again, I don't know. I've heard a lot of people that aren't even streamers talk about how they run into hackers like constantly. I can never tell if they're exaggerating them or not, right? Like you never know with people. Yeah, like they're like, I run into hackers every game, and it's like, do you? Like I stream this game.
It's like people that say I camp in tunnel every game. Like, do I know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I play this game 6 hours a night to like thousands of people, and like I don't even run into hackers that often. Like it's like once or twice a night sometimes. Like there's entire nights where I don't run into any, So like I don't know. Like I never know if people are exaggerating or not, but assuming that like your average player doesn't have a huge issue and it's mostly just like streamers that are being hard targeted, then I think that would be a good solution in my opinion.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think it would help. I don't know if it's a solution, but I think it would be like a holdover
for like a temporary solution that we talked about before, though.
Yeah. I think it definitely need to be something you apply for that has credibility behind it. Of like it's happened this many times to me in this many days or something. I think the community would lose its mind over the privilege delete, or I don't know, insert insult here or something.
I know that's why I said they're gonna eat me alive for making that comment.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like a big streamer, right? But I think that'd be okay personally.
Right.
Like if you could show history of you being targeted and it's stopping you from making content with this game, I think you should be able to like submit it and like get that type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't hate the idea. I think the community. I'm preemptively, but yeah, I think stuff like that, out of the box ideas, I think I'm always willing to field, just because why not, right? Like, you know,
Mhm.
being receptive. Dro, is there anything else that we left off?
No, I can't think about anything.
Anything you're just dying to?
No, I don't think so. I had a really good time. I love this
Yeah.
conversation. It was really good today.
Yeah, it was really good. Time flew by. All right.
Tofu.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Of course, this has been I'm All Ears, a Dead by Daylight podcast where Dro and myself, sometimes a guest, will cup our ears to the fog and listen to what you, the community, are saying regarding updates, balancing, character lore, popular requests, and much more. Of course, give us a listen on Spotify, your favorite podcasting service, leave a review, and check us out on the new YouTube channel and on Twitter. Dro, what's our Twitter? I'm bad at really being a part of this. You're looking it up too. I'm looking at you right now.
I'm
Yeah.
looking it up. Yeah. I'm all ears cast.
We just
Everyone's
changed
hand
it.
starts going to the keyboard. Like,
We just changed it. I'm like, I can't remember. I'm all ears cast.
That's it.
Perfect. I
Everywhere
like that.
now. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all that shit.
Oh, not technically YouTube, but soon. As soon as we figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Tofu, thank you so much for coming on, especially last minute. You want to plug yourself? Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. You guys can find me at twitch.tv/OhTofu. You can YouTube OhTofu. I mean, I feel like I have a dumb enough name that if you just Google OhTofu at any point, you'll probably find me, right? So it's fine. I don't have a name that's gonna be much else. OhTofu is basically just me. So yeah, you can just Google that anywhere, and I'm sure you can find me on whatever platform I might be on. And yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. I had a really good time coming on and hanging out. I love talking about stuff. So I appreciate you letting me come on and have my say.
Oh, of course. It won't be the first time, hopefully. Or won't.
Yeah.
Hold on. It is in fact the first time. That's not the saying.
First time.
Won't be the last time. Jesus. Dro, where can the people find you, my guy?
Just go to twitch.tv/HiDro.
There you go. Of course, you guys can find me at youtube.com/DyllonKG. I do stream on Twitch occasionally. Thank you guys for being here. Leave a comment, tweet at us on the podcast, tweet at Tofu. Nice things, preferably, or questions. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you on the next episode.